Hey Plant Tribe, welcome back to my channel. I'm Marina from Millennial Planter, and this is my channel where I talk about all things houseplant related. But today I just wanted to talk about my winter tips and tricks and regrets, even though we only have like less than 50 days left of winter. I hope this could be helpful, and winter is something that happens every year. So just something that you can keep in mind for next year, for next winter and fall. And definitely want to touch on my regrets because it's a big one and everybody just needs to learn from me because I am a stubborn Gemini and just learn from my mistakes. Well, first and foremost, just relax. I know a lot of people, especially new houseplant parents, were freaking out that winter was coming because, everybody kind of like hypes it up. Just don't freak out too much. Calm down. So first and foremost, you are going to want to consider the humidity. In the winter, the air is very dry. There's not as much moisture in the air as there is in the summertime. And when you run the heat, it's pretty much just sucking up whatever moisture is in the air, so it's making the air in your house super dry. And most of us collect tropical plants, and they like to be, somewhat in a humid environment. I would say anywhere from 50% to, upwards of 90, but that's just getting ridiculous. I would even say 40% is fine. If you want to keep an eye on the humidity in your house, if you want to just, if you're curious about how dry it gets, you could order one of these things on Amazon. It's just a little humidity gauger. I don't know what they're called, but it tells you the temperature and what percentage your house is at. So right now I'm at 59%, and this thing was $5.88 on Amazon, and I got 2 of them. I will link it down below. I've had it for about a week. Honestly, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it does give me an idea of if my house is too dry and what will help bring more moisture in the air. So I notice when I take a shower and I leave the door open, or if I'm running my oil diffuser, I do notice that there's a spike in the humidity. So that helps me know that something's working. Also, something else you could do is you could group your plants together. Like so. I noticed my plants really like this, especially my calatheas and marantas. They really like to be grouped together, and it's supposed to help them contain that moisture because they transpire at night, and all that humidity is just like staying within the group. So I really suggest that. It's helped me a lot. And then also, if you don't want to invest in a humidifier, I highly recommend just getting an oil diffuser and putting it in the middle of your group of plants. So I have this guy, which you can get off of Amazon, and I keep him in the middle of all of my plants here. Calathea and Maranta, like, come on, who else is going to be this picky? And they really seem to enjoy it. I also put peppermint oil in here and eucalyptus because I know peppermint is something that bugs don't like. And I like to think that the peppermint keeps pests at bay. So, that's just a little something that I do for pest prevention. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's 100% effective, but in my mind it is. And then my biggest, if you're going to take anything from this video, take this tip. Please stop misting your plants. In winter time, obviously we are not keeping our windows open. Our plants aren't getting enough air circulation. And if you're misting the plants and you have stagnant air, that is just asking for bacteria like blight and other nasty things to come and infect your plants and their foliage, and it's just a train wreck. Trust me. I stopped misting my plants a while ago, but I would take them into the bathtub with me or in the shower occasionally so they could just, get their humidity bath and live their best lives. But no, I apparently have stagnant air. I need to invest in a fan. My Calathea orbifolia here and my Addisoni, which I don't know if you can see, both started getting what I believe is blight. I will insert some pictures here. And it was horrible, and I was really sad because I love my orbifolia. So I had to treat it, which I will probably make a separate video about, but I didn't really think that it could happen to me, and it did. I've seen a few videos like Brad from What the Flock Farms and Sam from Sassy and Succulent and even Plant Me Ashley have talked about blight, but it's a real thing and it can happen. So just stop misting your plants or invest in like a little fan so you can keep the air circulating. Blight is something that's really common. Even farmers deal with it. So that is definitely just something to keep in mind because you just don't want to deal with it. Next, I'm going to touch on light. We all know the days are shorter in wintertime and the light really isn't as strong. So you want to maybe put your plants a little closer to the windows. Not too close though, because they can get frost damage if you have drafty windows or if their foliage is touching the actual window. Frost damage often is kind of like black specks or black dots on your leaves, and it could be pretty detrimental to your plant. So just, move them close, but not too close. Everything is like a happy medium with plants, And then also what you could do is you could invest in some grow lights. I have these grow lights here. They were $25 on Amazon. I went cheap, and honestly, I've had these for maybe a little over a month and they've done really well. I will leave the link in the description below if you guys want to try them out. They have this really strong clamp that you could just clamp on, and they are a yellow light. So I don't have the purple, I don't have the white. They're like a yellow warm light. And I turn them on when the sun goes down, so around 5 o'clock to 8:30, just so that they're getting an extra few hours of sunlight. And my plants really seem to like it. I've noticed that they are growing towards the light. I noticed that some plants that I'm propagating are rooting, and they're really by the light. And they even have a little switch here, so you could turn one on if you want, or you could turn both on or have them both off, however you like. Now on to pests. This is pretty much pest season, especially spider mite season. They thrive on that dry air. And like we talked about before, winter is nothing but dry air. So what I like to do to help keep the spider mites and other pests at bay is taking my plants to the sink or to the shower when I water them and really just giving them a spray down. I really think this has helped with my pest prevention and just keeping everything at bay, knocking on wood. When you use a forceful spray like a shower hose or the little hoses that come on some sinks in the kitchen, it's just spraying everything until next year, and they really don't have enough time to just sit on your leaves and breed. So I really highly recommend that as well, just spraying down the leaves, especially the backs of leaves, because that's where they like to get it on, is on the backs of leaves. So definitely recommend that. And if you want to be like me, maybe get some peppermint oil in a diffuser going, and hopefully it'll be like other bugs and they just don't like that overwhelming peppermint spray, because it can be pretty intense sometimes, even for me. And I'm just gonna assume that pests like mealybugs and spider mites don't like it either. And some other things to keep in mind with watering. Some people say you are gonna water your plants less, and I don't know, I found that to be maybe 50% true. I do see that some of my plants do need less watering. They do go through a dormancy period, which is totally normal. Your plants need to rest. They need to get ready to grow in the spring and summertime and thrive. I do notice that their soil is staying wet longer, and they don't need to be watered as frequently. But there are some plants that are thriving right now and are just growing and not getting the memo that it's winter time, or they are winter growers. Or there's some plants that are just reacting to the dry air. Some plants do need to be watered more frequently, if not as frequently as if it's summer or springtime. So definitely keep that in mind. Always check the soil before you water them, because like I said, you may need to water less or you may need to water more. And also when it comes to fertilizing, and repotting, I would suggest do it as necessary. And some plants are just going to need to be repotted because they're so root bound and they're just suffocating. So repot as necessary. You want to make sure that they really need it, and you want to make sure they're in a warm environment. You don't want to take them out where it's cold and freezing and their roots are going to get shocked. That's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. So definitely just keep that in mind. And also with fertilizing, do it as necessary. Most of your plants aren't going to need it. They are going to go into a dormancy period. But some of your plants that are still growing are definitely going to need the little extra nutrients. So fertilize when needed as well. Or I know that I'm still using Newt, which is really not like a technical fertilizer. So if you're using Newt, I guess you can continue using that as well. So to wrap up this video, stop misting your plants. And if you do miss them, or if you do have an accumulation of moisture on their leaves, definitely invest in a little fan to get that air circulating, because you do not want to deal with bacteria and having to cut leaves off and burning leaves. And yeah, just, keep that in mind. You want to keep an eye on the humidity. Make sure it's not getting too dry. Keep an eye out for those pesky little pets, especially spider mites. Some signs is just looking at the undersides of leaves. If you see some yellow stippling on the leaves, or even leaves coming out misshapen, can be a sign as well. Invest in some grow lights if you want to. You don't necessarily need to, especially if your plants are doing okay. I mean, if they're struggling, then maybe consider it, but most plants are going to be fine without them, to be honest, as long as they're not in a dark corner. And then repot, water, and fertilize as necessary. Some may need it, some may not need it. So just some tips and tricks to keep in mind. I hope this was all helpful for you. Like I said, I know there's less than 50 days left of winter, which is awesome. But just stuff to keep in mind to get you through the last little bit of it, especially just gets really cold before spring. So hopefully it'll help you get through that last cold front, and something to keep in mind for next winter as well. Leave any tips you have down below as well, and we could all just check them out, and this could be a place where people can just go and see other people's tips or regrets as well. And I hope you all like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!